Hi guys, thanks for joining me for another meal prep video. This is the January 2021 video, although I appreciate I'm uploading it at the beginning of February. So you are going to have leftovers actually from this meal plan, but most of them are freezable, everything except for the couscous salad, I'm afraid. So sorry about that, but like I said, the rest are freezable, so do feel free to save them for another week and give yourself a bit of an easy life. Let's get straight into it. As usual, I have attached a PDF link to PDF in the description containing the plan and the recipes for you so that you can go off and make whatever takes your fancy or the whole lot. I've just put the meal plan together as a suggested way to eat this, but I mean, it's really just meal prep, so you can just have it whichever order you like. Anyway, thanks again for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do consider doing so and like this video if you like it. All right, till next time. Thanks, guys.
Lunch number one is our white bean and pasta soup. It's a pretty simple soup, but very, very wholesome and nutritious.
Just start by taking your sautéing medium of choice. Mine is either Frylight or water usually. And then add your onion, which you just want to dice fairly chunkily. And then take your celery and carrots. I've used about 5 or 6 celery sticks and 4 carrots, but you can absolutely use as many as you have. You just want to chop these up whilst the onion is sautéing. I like to put mine in little sort of thick slices and then quarters, and again my celery in just fairly small pieces. Once I've added those to the pot, I add a load of garlic. I just use the frozen one because it's easier. And then just season it with a little bit of salt. This helps to break it down when you're not using sort of any oil, etc. Then we're going to add in just a small amount of water just to kind of deglaze the bottom of the pan and let everything kind of really get cooking. As you can see, I've not used much water at all. It's just enough just to sort of stop things sticking there. And then while that's cooking, we're going to prep our kale. And all you need to do is just tear the leaves from the stems. This is why I like whole kale, because it's so much easier than the store-bought chopped stuff. And as you can see, you're just left with a stem for each leaf and the 2 halves. And then you can just lie them all up and scrunch them up with your hands and chop them, and they turn out really nice and small. You can add any kind of mixed herbs, but I like the Italian herb blend. It's got some chilies in there as well. It's really tasty. Next up, I'm adding in my 2 vegetable stock pots. I like these Knorr ones, but again, you can use any vegetable stock that you like as long as it's suitable for vegans. I'm then adding in some hot water. This is straight from the kettle, and I've added in a total of 1 litre at this point. I will be adding more later, but I'd just suggest starting with 1 litre. I've then got my basil and parsley. I've used about half a bag of each, and I like to just remove the really thick stalks from those and bunch them up to chop them. Basically, I like to do this whilst I'm bringing the broth mix back up to a boil. And while it's coming up to a boil, we can just get everything prepped. So I've zested my 2 lemons, and I've also have them ready to juice. I've drained and rinsed my cannellini beans. I've got my pasta open, ready to use. And of course, my herbs and kale are already chopped up anyway. So then we're just going to add the pasta in once the soup mix has started boiling. Just give it a good stir in. As you can see, I'm adding another 500 ml of boiling water at this point. You can add more or less, however you like to make it. It's very, very forgiving. I'm going to add in both of my tins of drained and rinsed cannellini beans, as well as a further 500 ml of boiling water. That is 2 litres in total that I've used in my particular version of this soup. But as I said, it's very forgiving. You can do whatever works for you. When it's very near the end, I'm adding in the kale and the lemon juice and also the fresh herbs. And then it's good to go. Whilst the soup is cooking, we can get the veggies prepped for lunch number 2 and our first batch of things in the oven. So just to prepare your courgette, pepper, aubergine and onion with some Frylight and garlic, salt and pepper, and pop it in a roasting tray and stick it in the oven. Today we're making spiced carrot and orange oat cups for our breakfasts. So this is everything that you'll need. It's nice and simple, just my basic baked oats recipe with a little flavour twist. So firstly, just measure out your oats. Add in your teaspoon each of baking powder, cinnamon and ginger. Just mix those all together really, really well. Then if you haven't done so already, you'll want to grate your carrot. There's no need to peel it, just grate it up. You only want about a medium carrot for this. Next up, add in your almond milk and also your vanilla extract. And then you want to combine your maple syrup and your marmalade in a small bowl. This is just to make it runny so that it's going to mix in really, really well into the main mixture. As you can see, it's a lot runnier now, so it mixes in really, really nicely. So get that going, and then you can just let this sit aside. It works fine if not, but it is best if you can just let it sit for sort of 5, 10, maybe even 15 minutes. It just makes a bit of difference. Now, if your baking tray needs a bit of help, add some fry light before portioning out the muffins into 10 holes of the baking tray, and after about 25 minutes in the oven they'll come out looking beautiful. Now they have risen at this point, but the tops will go down slightly, but please don't let that put you off because they are delicious. Meanwhile, let's get the couscous ready for our veg that's roasting. So I'm crumbling in an OXO cube into my couscous. Now you just want to measure out enough couscous for you for 3 to 4 portions for lunches. Probably go 4 with the amount of veg that I've done, but obviously everyone eats different amounts, so you do what works for you. And then I just pour boiling water straight from the kettle just to slightly cover the couscous, and after 5 to 10 minutes I just fluff it up once it's all been soaked through. And then when the veg is done, you can just mix it in along with the juices. And to finish off, I've got some mint and also some basil and some parsley, and I'm just going to chop those up along with a lemon and some chilli just to add a load of flavour. And all I do is take the big stalks off of the herbs to chop them up. As you can see, they always turn out really nicely. Just squidge them with your hand when you're chopping them. It makes a world of difference. I'm then just de-seeding and chopping my chilli and adding that in as well. And also I will be squeezing in some lemon juice. You can add the zest, but quite frankly, I couldn't be bothered. And then finally some salt and pepper. I've used garlic pepper just for a little bit of extra flavour, but you can definitely just use normal black pepper as well. And of course a big sprinkling of salt. Now, when you mix this all together, it really needs a really good mix, by the way. So just, maybe use a bigger bowl than I did. Of course, this doesn't have any protein, so I thought it would be nice to add different proteins depending on what you fancy, or just have it. So I'd suggest chickpeas with it. That's the most economical version, but at the same time you could also make some tofu to go with it. You could do some veggie sausages. You can have it on its own, but chickpeas or other beans are really going to be the most economical way to enjoy this one. Dinner number 1 is a lovely vegetable and chickpea curry. So this is everything that I'm putting in. I've got potatoes, I've got this beautiful purple cauliflower, I've got some chestnut mushrooms and a big fat onion, as well as some ginger and garlic. That's optional, but it's good. Obviously I've got some chickpeas there as well. And I'm using the Mayflower curry sauce mix, which is 4 sins per 28 grams of the powder. But if you don't have it, or you'd like to use something else, then you could use normal curry powder and some light coconut milk. This Tesco one is 12 sins for the whole tin, so it would work out 3 sins a portion, but it's entirely up to you. You can do what you like. We're going to start just by sauteing the onion, garlic and ginger in some fry light or some water, or a bit of both. You do you. Next up, we're going to add in a little splash of water because we're just steaming, and I've chopped up my baby potatoes into bite-sized pieces, or slightly larger than bite-sized, but I like it chunky. And I do like my mushrooms quartered in curries because they're nice and toothsome. So then just add that to the pot, give it all a good mix to get the onion and aromatics mixed through it. Add a teensy bit more water if you need to, but essentially you are going to be steaming this. So just leave the lid on and let it sit for a good 10 minutes or so. When you come back, you should find that your things are starting to cook nicely. And meanwhile, I have chopped up my beautiful purple cauliflower. Look at it, isn't it glorious? And also courgettes. So throw those on in there, add a bit more water if you need to, but just go careful not to add too much. And then pop your lid back on, leave it for another 5 to 10 minutes. Meanwhile, I'm just making up my Mayflower curry powder, which is just with hot water, and I'm going to pour that in. I've measured mine for 4 portions. That was the lucky chickpea there. So I've added in my chickpeas, and then I'm just going to add in the curry sauce mix. As I said, if you want to use coconut milk and curry powder, that will work too. So I'm just going to leave it like it is. It will thicken up with the Mayflower stuff. I did make this a little too watery, but it is a really delicious curry still, and it will taste really good. It freezes well, and it does thicken up over time anyway. Our final dinner recipe is really easy and really delicious. It's proper comfort food. So we've got a red onion, 3 different colour peppers, a courgette, a tin of sweet corn, 2 tins of black beans, a tin of cherry tomatoes, a jar of hot salsa, and a stock pot, as well as some I'm using brown basmati rice, but you can use any rice that you like. And then for spices, we've got chili powder, coriander, cumin, and cayenne pepper. And to top it off, we're going to use some cocoa vegan cheese. And you want to start out just by chopping up all those lovely veggies and popping them in a casserole dish and adding some garlic. I've allowed for 4 cloves of garlic, as you can see, and I've mentioned before, I just buy the frozen chopped stuff because it's so easy. So I probably use a little bit too much. Next up, it's time to add all the spices. We're using 1/4 teaspoon of the cayenne pepper. We're using 2 teaspoons of cumin. And 1 teaspoon of ground coriander, and finally 2 teaspoons of chili powder. I've gone for a mild chili powder. Next up, add the drained and rinsed sweet corn and black beans. Then give it all a really good mix together. Add in a cup of dry rice. This is quite important. And again, just mix it all up together. You want to just add the cherry tomatoes in a tin. You can use chopped tomatoes, but the cherry ones are just really nice. And then add the jar of salsa, and this gives it that extra little something something. And then add your stock pot to 300 mils of boiling water approximately, and then plus a teaspoon of salt. Sorry, I don't know where my words went then. And then just to mix it all together, pour over that lovely stock, and then we're just going to cover it with some foil and bake it for at least an hour to begin with, because you want to make sure that that rice is cooked. Now, I did stab my foil, but I think probably with hindsight I wouldn't do that again, so I don't recommend you do it. But anyway, this is it after an hour. As you can see, it's looking lush, but my rice was nowhere near cooked at that point. As I said, I shouldn't have stabbed the foil really. However, we're going to add the cheese at this point, and it's I've calculated it for 1 healthy extra portion per quarter. But you can always add more when you serve it, which is what I do, to be honest. And here is the finished item once you've baked it for another half an hour. And honestly, it's so good. Look at it bubbling away there. I hope you got some useful ideas from this video. And like I said at the beginning, if you haven't subscribed, please do consider doing so. And I'll see you next time. Bye.